Hi, I'm Boston City Councilor Kenzie Bok. I'm also the chair of the City Council's Ways and Means Committee, and budget season is here again in the city of Boston. The mayor introduced a proposed budget on April 14th, which the council will now be formally considering over the next 2 months prior to a final vote on June 30th. I want to talk a little bit about the pieces of the budget and the process ahead. The city budget includes 3 main components: the capital budget, the BPS budget, and then the operating budget that covers all the other departments. The capital budget includes funding for large projects or investments in physical infrastructure like school buildings, community centers, parks, libraries, streets, bridges, public housing, all the key public goods that we share together and invest in over the long term. Funding a robust capital budget is a really key way that the city can stimulate the local economy and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic as a more equitable and sustainable place by investing in capital projects that will both create good paying jobs and build the city's infrastructure. The operating budget, meanwhile, covers all the day-to-day annual expenses for city departments. So that's staff, equipment, contractual services, supplies, materials, anything that we need on a year-on-year basis to run programs, et cetera, that's operating. Within the city operating budget, the council traditionally votes on the Boston Public Schools budget separately because that piece has to first be approved by the school committee. During the budget season, the city council also authorizes revolving funds. This is when funds from fees or charges associated with a specific program are then used to fund the costs of the same program. So for example, the city sells compost it produces from yard waste, and then we use the profit to buy compost bins. Revolving funds are not taxpayer dollars, and so they're not technically part of the city budget, but alongside the budget, we vote on the limits for these funds. In addition, this year, we'll be talking about how important federal funding that's coming from Washington can be used alongside our budget to fund our city's recovery. We want to make sure that every dollar from the American Rescue Plan that comes into our city's general fund or to the Boston Public Schools, and it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, is being put to excellent use in this moment of really great need in our city. Following review of the budget in April and May, at the beginning of June, the city council has to take a first vote to accept, reject, or reduce the budget. Since the council is unable to increase funding or make changes to most department line items by our charter, we're not allowed to make those kinds of edits. The council usually votes to reject the operating budget without prejudice, which is a term that just means that the mayor can resubmit the operating budget with changes that reflect what she's heard from the council and the public through the process. The city council then reviews the resubmitted operating budget and votes to adopt, reject, or reduce it at the end of the month of June. The mayor's proposed capital budget requires 2 rounds of votes from the council, 2 weeks apart, because that involves borrowing money and therefore means taking on debt on the city's behalf. So we have to have these 2 votes to make sure that we've thought deeply about that. Like last year, we'll be adapting this year's budget process to accommodate everyone participating from home on Zoom. From now through June, the council holds virtual working sessions and public hearings on the budget. And early in the process, we'll have a working session to answer your questions about how to read the budget in the first place. You can join us for that on Monday, April 26th at 4 p.m. And then we'll have our first opportunity for public testimony on what you want to see funded as part of a strong, equitable recovery on Wednesday, April 28th at 6 p.m. Then throughout the rest of the month, we'll be having about 30 hearings, each on different departments, and we'll also have a couple more evening public testimony hearings to make sure that your voices are heard. At every hearing, the public is invited to provide testimony. You can testify live via Zoom by uploading a 2-minute video, which will be played during the hearing, or you can send written testimony, which is shared with the council and made part of the hearing record. To do any of those 3 things, for more information on how to provide that testimony, please visit boston.gov/budget-testify. That's boston.gov/budget-testify, TESTIFY. We will also be using the hashtag BOSSBudget, BOS budget, when we put our budget information and updates out, so you can look for that on Twitter and social media. I'm looking forward to hearing and reading your testimony, and I really hope you'll join the council in reviewing the city budget this year. There's nothing more important or urgent than how we use all of our collective resources to make Boston a great city for all in this really difficult and also transformative moment. So thanks for being here and thanks for your participation.